Hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker. Today what we're going to be doing is, well, first of all I have to strap this bike to the actual lift, but we currently have the front raised up, and the reason for that is I have new tires for the Valkyrie. However, also on the way home yesterday, the front wheel bearing let go. The front or the back, I'm 99.9% certain it's the front, which we're going to find out in this video. So I'm going to swap to different camera real quick, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, so to get to here, first and foremost, you want to lift the front end. Now you can put a block of wood under the engine, lift it, and then put jack stands under the engine bar, similar to this. This works fine, by the way. I've had that sitting for quite a while. You don't need to worry about it. Just be careful, obviously, and make sure everything is secure. But this is very doable. Secondly, there are two 8mm bolts here with spacers. Don't lose the spacers. They look like this, and that secures these covers. Now you don't have to put back on the covers. I probably will, but yeah, you want to put you need to take off the covers in order to get access to this. You also want to take off your calipers. Mine are hanging up here. And also then your mudguard. Mine's over there. Or fender if you're American. So yeah, I still plan on changing this tire today. I do have new Metzeler Cruise Techs, which were hideously expensive, but these are also like rocks. And we're going to be rebuilding the forks. I have the other forks obviously removed here. I'm just waiting on Racetech springs to get here, and then we'll do that video too. But for now, let's investigate how bad this is. If the wheel bearing completely collapsed and destroyed things, it's not the end of the world, because I do have the spare wheel. And worst case scenario, I will use that. I'll probably swap these discs over though. They're in pretty good condition. So yeah, let's get into it. All we need to do next to take off this wheel is loosen up the pinch bolts, both sides, and then pop this out. This is like a little locking bolt, and then we'll be able to slide out the axle. But first what I'm going to do is strap the bike to the actual bike lift, and then we'll get back to this. So the lock bolt down here on this side of the tire is a 22, and our pinch washers should be a 6. Yeah, they're a 6. Bolt on this side is a 22, and then on the right hand side, or if you're looking from the front, the right hand side of the wheel is a H17. Alright, let's get this wheel off. There we go. Okay. Let's see how bad the bearings are. If they're bad, I'm guessing they're bad. So first and foremost, okay, that side is not collapsed. Oh. All right. Let me get my other camera. So on the right hand side, yeah, that's cooked. Let me get this seal out and we'll show you more. But I don't know if there's access to the back of the outer race of the bearing. If there is, I'll be able to save this wheel, but if not, that's going to make this quite difficult. Still savable, but I won't be doing it today. I'm going to just use the spare wheel, because getting out an outer race that's destroyed is a lot of work. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Okay, so before we get into some nonsense like mockery match as well, this is avoidable. Preventative maintenance obviously avoids this, but this wheel gave no warning signs. I had checked the bearings previously, and I do have new ones sitting right over there in a box that I was going to do today anyway. Sometimes that's just how it plays out. It's an old bike. I don't know why it failed yet, but let's keep looking. And that is a problem with these Valkyries, as well as they're known to have the front wheel bearing fail. But anyway, let's get into it. And what you want to do first is get that seal out of your way. So you're also going to want to just prop the wheel up on two pieces of wood so that your disc isn't sitting on the ground. I do not have a seal puller. It's something I'll probably invest in pretty soon, because I always end up having to kind of jerry-rig a seal removal method. So the outer cover of the bearing is obviously, after just popping out there as well, so the bearing, looks like the cage collapsed, but we won't know yet. I'm hoping it'll stay together enough that I can knock it out, but who knows. As soon as I hit that with a hammer, it's probably going to fall out. So the reason you have to do this, by the way, is you have to pull your seal first, like I just did, and now we can flip the whole thing over, because you need to hit it from obviously the opposite side. So it hasn't fallen out yet. We might be in luck. But while we're waiting, we'll also just pop this seal on this side. That often happens with seals when I take them out. That's just gone. It went for a flyaway. On this side as well, you want to make sure you take off your speed sensor ring, because you will need to put that back in and obviously take care of it. But yeah, this bearing on this side feels, actually this one's gone rough too, but that doesn't surprise me, because when one collapses, generally it's going to hurt the one on the other side. So then you want to get your drift in place, which you kind of want to hit. Let me get another bearing and show you. Here's just another bearing I have. So when you're feeling your way down through there, there's going to be a spacer, which you'll see in a second, that sits against this inner race. By the way, this is an inner race, this is an outer race, and then your ball bearings and your bearing cage sits in there under that seal, right? So when you're feeling your way down past the spacer, you're going to want to just hit the very edge of that inner race. That's how you knock these bearings out. Now, there's better, cleaner ways to do it if you want to reuse your bearing, because obviously hitting it on the side can theoretically damage them. But obviously, I'm just removing these to put them in the bin, so it's no big deal. You do almost always have to try work the spacer out of your way, because it does get in the way. Oh, and there we go. That's one side out, plus the spacer. So that's your spacer. You want to put that away to one side also, keep it protected. And yeah, this bearing is covered in schmutz. But this bearing actually doesn't feel bad, but it does look like there was rust in there somewhere, which is probably what took out our compatriot. And there's pieces of bearing cage here now as well. So hopefully we can get this other bearing out. Hopefully. Okay, so we have zero access to the outer race, which means if the bearing doesn't stay together, I'm just going to use the other wheel for now, because I have had that happen before with the CBF back in Ireland, and it's not something I want to go through right now. So I'm going to try tap this out gently to hope it stays together. Let me try show you actually on the other camera what I'm actually doing. So hopefully you're able to see that, but if you look down in there, you can see that inner race of the bearing, and that's what you're hitting with your punch and hammer, or drift and hammer. I invested in a set of drifts, because sometimes you need wider ones, sometimes you need narrower ones, but that's essentially what you're doing, is just trying to knock that out gently. Now so far this is looking good, it hasn't fallen apart yet, so hopefully it stays together and we can just pop the bearing out and everything is easier. So what happened was, I was coming around the corner on the way home yesterday, thankfully very close to my house, and the bearing gave way, gave me an almighty wobble. Similar actually to what happened to Barry when we were traveling and he body slammed the bike on the ground because he lost traction, but in this case I lost a bearing. But yeah, was able to limp it home. Thankfully no major harm done, other than obviously to the bearing. And it came out in one. Oh my god, that is such good news. That is the best news. Wow, let's have a look at this thing. Let's dissect it. Okay, so this is the bearing that came out. Let me grab the other one. So you can see at some point we did have some form of liquid ingress in here because there is some rust. But this one, I mean, this bearing's still serviceable. It's not, there's no sideways play in it. It It feels pretty good, honestly. Obviously this one is not, and it looks like what happened was our bearing cage collapsed. These are bits of cage. I'll pop off this cover and show you what it should look like in a second, because I'm not reusing it, but there's more bits of cage. The good news is enough of this stayed in here, because again I didn't have to go far, but enough of this stayed in here to hold the inner race to the outer race, so I was able to actually punch this whole thing out, because otherwise you have to get in and, you know, grind on your outer race until you can get it out, and that risks damaging the wheel, and it's just a nightmare. So yeah, it looks like a bearing cage collapse. I'm imagining by the look of this we had some side to side play. How I didn't detect it when I checked the front wheel, I don't know, because again, front wheel is a risk on these things, and it's a known risk. But yeah, I was kind of lucky. Wasn't worse. It's still actually somehow kind of rolling on those balls as well. But yeah, that's not what a bearing should look like. Let me pop this out real quick and show you. So this is what it should look like in there. You can see all those balls are completely covered by the cage. And honestly, it looks like there's not that much grease in this one, so I'm guessing that's why it was a pretty quick failure, and that I didn't notice is just the grease had gone super old in these bearings. I mean, they're probably original. And as soon as you lose grease in here, obviously you get heat, and when you get heat, things start to fail. So that's what it should look like, and that's what it did look like. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty lucky. I'm not upset with this result, because I got this punched out nice and easy. So now what I'm going to do is put in the new bearings, which I'll show you once I clean everything, and then we can get to changing the tyre. Some interesting news, team. This is the bearing from the 97. This is the bearing from the 98. That is a 98. Do you see a problem? I think Honda might have known they had an issue and replaced these little piddly ones with these still kind of piddly but bigger. These actually still feel great, but obviously I have new ones, so I'm going to use them. But yeah, that's the interesting thing. I'm just glad I had a second wheel now, because obviously this, number one, I would have bought the wrong bearings, because I bought bearings ages ago for this. But yeah, this way now I can pop them in here, and I just have to clean a wheel, and then we'll put the tyre onto this wheel. This is now the proper wheel. This one's dust, and what I'll do is I'll measure the discs, and whichever disc has more life left in it is the one that we will use going forward. I can swap discs very easily also. So yeah, a little bit more work than I intended, but we'll be going with that. And you can actually see the spacers as well. The cleaner one is the one out of the 98, so also it's a cleaner spacer. But like I said, it's not a big deal, because I have the spare. So again, Parts Bike comes in as the winner. Thanks, Parts Bike. Forgot to turn on the camera, but their new bearings are installed in wheel number 2. And all you want to do is just seat your bearings in, and then get a socket that's big enough to sit around the outer edge of your outer race, like that. And then you hammer it in, right? And the only thing you want to do is you never want to over tighten. So as you're hammering in, just keep checking your spacer still has little bit of play, and then basically just hammer it in until you're pretty much seated against that. And after that, then you also need to make sure obviously there's enough space for your dust seal. On the other side of the wheel, make sure you put back in your little clip for your speed sensor. That's obviously important too. And that's pretty much it. You just seat them in. There's no torque or anything like that. You just hammer them in to depth. On this one, obviously I put this one in first on this wheel, and you can just hit it until you hear it land home. And honestly, once you're in far enough that this here is seated, you're good. After that then, you have to put in your dust seals. These guys here, this is an old one. And then this is the smaller dust seal here. Obviously this is the dust seal off this wheel, because it has more space. So again, 98, 97, are not compatible, and you should just be able to push your dust seal in with your fingers. And that's it. So that's the bearings on this rebuilt. Now I'm going to get the tyre off, or try to anyway. I don't know how difficult this is going to be, but we're about to find out. Not sure what happened here, but my microphone stopped working. Honestly, this was easier than I expected it to be, to get this big old cruiser tire off this rim. You'll see I did just use a little bit of soapy water to help break the bead. I did have this wheel sitting out in the sun also, and the fresh tire also sitting out in the sun for when I was going to fit it, because all of that helps soften up the rubber. But yeah, pretty easy to get it off in the end with the Rabaconda. There is obviously a full video using the Rabaconda. I mentioned that later in this video as well. But you can watch the Rabaconda review, and it gives a full breakdown on how to use it. But it is very useful. I recommend it. So I know it's a question that has come up quite a lot about the Rabaconda and can it do cruiser wheels, tires. This tire I think is from the Middle Ages. I don't think I have a date code on it even. Actually, this tire probably would have been okay to run. It says it's from 08. But anyway, can you get a big cruiser tire off? Yes, you can. And I'm going to keep this as a spare because it's from 2018. It's not bad, actually. Not bad at all. Big Shinko. I could have saved some money if I'd done that, but I didn't. So anyway, I'm happier with the Metzlers. Now what I'm going to do is turn off the camera because I want to clean that wheel a lot before I put anything back on it. Okay, that's the wheel cleaned up. Now we can try put on the new tire. And I have put in a new valve as well. I had this tire heating out in the sun, so hopefully that helps a wee bit. Now the nice thing about this is, this is the left hand side of the wheel, because that's where the speed sensor goes, is on the left. So just find our direction of rotation on the tire. Rotation. The tire's going on like that. Pretty easy. So all I'm going to do now is lube up this and then pop it on. I have done full videos on the Rabaconda, so I'm not going to cover this in detail. I'm just going to slap this on there now. If you want to see a full detailed video of how to do this, it is the same for like every tire ever. Look up the Rabaconda review video or one of the other videos where I'm using it, but I would recommend the review one. That's the most in-depth. Easy peasy. I should have preheated my S23 before I put it on the sun, because that was easier than the S23. Alright, now I gotta go set the bead on this thing. I will be back. Okay, that's it. These are, or this is, a repaired, well, I suppose it is a spare wheel, but it is bearings replaced, new tire on, and actually I think I'm going to use these brake discs. They might actually be better than the other ones, so all in all that worked out pretty good. But yeah, this is why I say this stuff is not bad to do it, yourself at home. Of course, you do have to put in the caveat there that I do have the Rabaconda. Rabaconda costs, about $500. For me, it's already paid for itself. Everything else is just gravy now at this point. At this point, it's making me money. But yeah, that is, replacing bearings, which these new ones feel much better. And I will be putting this back on as soon as Race Tech get me my springs here, and I can finish rebuilding the forks from this bike, which are also going back onto this bike. So yeah, and that's just an interesting side note, that between 97 and 98, Honda obviously changed the bearings in their front wheel. So I'm not sure what I'll do with that other front wheel. I'll probably buy bearings for it so that this bike here can be a roller, because I'll probably sell it as a relatively complete parts bike at some point. Or I might not. I don't know what I'll do with it, to be honest. I'm not really sure, because it's already made a hell of a lot of sense to have it, seeing on how much stuff I've gotten off it at this point. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, this wheel is not going back on until the stuff from Race Tech gets here and I redo the forks, which hopefully I'll get to do this evening. It's supposed to be delivered today, so if I get to do that this evening, then obviously you will get to see it go back together. But to put the wheel back on is pretty straightforward, nothing complicated. If you want to see a more in-depth bearing change video, there is one out there where I did the front wheel on Rafe's V-Strom. That's on the channel. There is a review video for the Rabaconda where I also do that more in depth. And I think I actually did an in-depth video on taking the whole front end off this bike, or at least breaking it down. I'm not sure. You'll have to have a look at the channel. If I find the videos, I'll link them below. But yeah, if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. I think that is a successful video. Obviously, check your bearings. I did check these ones. Why that one failed as quickly as it did, I don't know. I'm very lucky, and I'm very happy it didn't end worse. So check your bearings. Preventative maintenance is always better than, you know, post-issue maintenance. I'm very lucky that that bearing came out, but as it turned out, we didn't even need that wheel because I had the spare. But you might not be so lucky either in how the bearing failing plays out, or if you might not have a spare. So yeah, get it looked at, keep yourself safe, and change your bearings. They're very important. Change your bearings. Other than that, yeah, the front bearing kit I used, I meant to say that, it's a Pivot Works kit, and it is PWFWSH05 000. I don't know that focus on it. There you go. You can pause there and have a look. But that's what I got at Pivot Works. So yeah, it says lifetime replacement. I assume that means lifetime. And you know, the annoying thing is I ordered the Pivot Works because it said I didn't want to go with all balls. I wanted to go and get Japanese bearings, and Pivot Works are supposed to be Japanese, but actually on the box it says vendor A balls, which is all balls. So I could have just bought the all balls kit. Any hoozles, doesn't matter. They're in there now, and we'll keep an eye on them. But I'm really actually glad I have the 98 wheel, because hopefully that bigger, beefier bearing will last better. I'm a poet and I apparently do know it. Anywho, yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, and Metzeler Cruise Techs. That's what I'm putting onto the bike, tires wise. So yeah, that's it. More to come. If you've watched, thank you very much for watching. As always, very special thank you to all of my patrons, one of whom sold me this parts bike and set this whole thing in motion. Honestly, the parts bike has equally as many parts on the finished bike as, you know, as the finished bike has remainder there. So yeah, it's that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's all I have. So thanks again for watching. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Please do like the video if you enjoyed it at all. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again. Adios. Outro crew. Here's a question for you. Did I have to change my pants after the bearing failed when I was taking a relatively fast left turn? What do you think? Let me know, outro crew. And have you ever had a bearing fail? This is not my first. Mine failed on the CBF as well. I don't know, do you remember? I had one sort of fail on the Gixxer. That I caught that one early when I was on track, in very heavy rain on track, and I'm fairly certain the one on the front of the V-Strom is not the happiest, but I caught that way early, so that's also easy. The CBF and this one are the only ones that ever actively failed while I was riding. Did you ever have something like that happen? Let me know, outro crew. Bye, outro crew.